Hi, folks. My name is Danny. Thank you for joining me here on another video on Danny's Corner. Today, I want to talk about police brutality. It's something that has been going on for some time, unfortunately, it doesn't, how can I say this without sounding it bad? Unfortunately, because there isn't enough data. We don't have statistics, and as it is, until there's not enough people shot or abused by police, this is not going to be known. But I found an article. Actually, there are several, but out of the several that I was noticing here is one that caught my attention. So I will relate to you a little bit of what it says, and I'll leave the article in the comment section, and I'll leave a link as well to a footage that is really disturbing, and I'll see what else I can leave as well. Here we go. Law enforcement officers are ill-equipped to interact with disabled individuals in a non-discriminatory fashion. This can be attributed to a lack of training as well as bias against disabled individuals. According to the Ruderman Foundation, the media has significantly stigmatized disability and underplayed its role in high-profile cases of police brutality. As a result, approximately one-third to one-half of individuals killed by the police are disabled, and disabled individuals comprise the majority of high-profile use of force cases. Exact statistics are unavailable because there are no requirements to track how often force is used against individuals with disabilities. And as I said, there should be, and a lot of times I understand that, in my case, for example, I have a CP, cerebral palsy. This is really worrisome because, as you know, if you have seen one of us, we obviously have a trouble walking. Let me give you an example. At one time, and I know this, right? This is something that I have known, but it's just weird trying to explain to another person. I was at a restaurant a few years ago, and I was walking, and somebody asked the individual that I was holding on to, "Is he drunk?" Meaning me. No, I wasn't. And so I had to stop and say, "No, I have a disability." So the guy apologized, perhaps was a bit like flustered or whatnot. Now, can you imagine? The police are already, I understand that they're stressed. I understand that this job requires a lot of patience. However, when it comes to people with disabilities, they're just trying to live a normal life, as normal as it can get, especially when you don't know what kind of disabilities the individual has. And I believe that we should be able to train these people to, I'm talking about the police, we should be able to train these people to deal in a courteous way with people who have disabilities, courteous way with everyone, for example. So in this case, if you see a person in a wheelchair or who's blind, you might want to assess the situation first. For example, I remember when I was at a house, and there was a shooting, or no, it wasn't a shooting. It was somebody who was in his house unwilling to come out And so the police had asked all of us to get out, go somewhere else while they de escalated the situation. And so it's easily, or at least for us, it's easily, people are can easily tell that we're blind. And so the police officer, who was a female, saw us and said, "Yeah, if you guys have somewhere to go, please go. We'll call you when the danger is over." And sure enough, we went somewhere. It took about 20 minutes to get there, then another 30 minutes. I think it was about an hour and a half or 2 hours after they called us and said that everything was fine. But the police officer was respectful. She didn't uh, have any sort of hurl any insults or abuse at us. And so I think if you know how to manage the situation well, things will go just fine for you. There should be no problem. With that said, there are many police officers that don't know how to speak to a person with a disability. I believe that, again, I understand it's about, what, 6 months to a year, something like that, to become a police officer. So you might say, well, if we have to educate everyone about disabilities, from restaurant workers to police officers to teachers, then when are they going to actually go through the real training? Because they will spend more time doing that than the actual police, or it'll be too much to do both things at the same time. And so what I recommend is, I believe that inclusion should start from a young age. As soon as you go into first grade, I believe teachers should be accommodating to everyone and saying, we're going to have two people who are disabled, or three or four. Make it small at first, and make sure that they are able to follow instructions, because I know that depending on the disability, some people may require special assistance more than one single teacher can provide for that student. And so, yeah, I do believe that some students should be allowed into mainstream with other students who are not disabled. And in that way, the teacher can implement that whole training thing that I was talking about. That should be started by either the age of 5 or 6. So when you start going to college and university, where you're going to find more people like that, hopefully, and if you go to the police academy, you will already know, hey, this is some basic training that I need to have. You'll already have mastered some of the skills. All the police academy is going to teach you is, okay, how do I handcuff a person who's in a wheelchair, or how do I um, keep the person who has a disability from attacking me. Yes, although there are some people who may have disabilities, and you might think that they are harmless because of their disability, they're actually not. They use uh, whatever strength they have. It's usually not for bad intent. It's used to defend themselves, which is a great thing. And again, we must always use whatever has been given to us wisely. And in this case, I think that that's what police officers have not been doing, right? They have not considered those people who have disabilities such as autism, or disabilities that they don't understand the commands that you are giving them. In terms of autism, for example, not only some individuals don't understand what's going on, and there can be some confusion there, but you can also have, as I said before, because of their autism, They might be really strong, although they may not see like it at the time that you watch them or interact with them. They are really strong, and there should be, and I can't stress this enough. There should be um, either a month long course to train these people on how to interact with people with disabilities. That's the least that they can do. And as I said earlier, provide statistics. Uh, don't think that people with disabilities are not going out alone to do their shopping, to do everything that they have to do. Why do we keep assuming, or why do you keep assuming, as people who are sighted, that we will always have somebody around us to help us in any way, shape, or form? In my case, for example, I still do it. I still go out alone. I live alone. I do about 60 to 65% of the things alone, and the other 35 I do it with a person, especially because it takes me a long time. But just imagine, uh, there's a lot of people who can take advantage of a person with a disability, and given that factor, the person with the disability can and will defend him or herself if they find themselves being provoked. Now, can you just imagine there is a police officer called to the scene, and the person with disability is already uh, not in good shape. In other words, emotionally, he or she is scared, perhaps crying. There's a lot of emotions that can be going on. The police officers are only going to make things worse because, depending on the disability that you have, those lights, those sirens can be too much for a person with a disability. And again, these are things that are not taught at the academy, and they should. And so there should be a good response. So in my case, for example, as I said, the officer that interacted with me said, "My name is so and so. I am a police officer. I do not have a badge in Braille, but here's my number." And anyway, she assured us in every way possible that she was a police officer, which was no problem. And as a blind person, I can also tell when it's a police officer because now they have those body cams, which do make like a vibrating noise and or a beeping sound. So it's a really good thing that they have those enable for me to tell, hey, it's a police officer. They can also have an extra badge, maybe in Braille. Um, and again, approaching the suspect, if they're not blind, for example, by saying, "I am a police officer," do it in a slow and reassuring way, so as they don't get scared. And also, you must look for signs. Obviously, sometimes there are two officers instead of one. So yeah, sometimes those sirens can be pretty loud. So just make sure that if there is a way for you to, I don't know, ask for more information. Um, Make sure that the dispatcher, see, this goes back to the people that are also working for the 911, right? Desk. Make sure that dispatcher asks, is this person disabled? Is it a person who's not disabled? So at least they can get some idea of what they're dealing with. They have more information. That way they can pass it on to the officers. So the officers may already know, hey, we're going to deal with a person with a disability. Here's what we should do. Again, there's a bunch of disabilities and you may not know what to do in every situation, but there are some key points that I have already said that you could do some steps that you could take and able to make sure that these encounters, perhaps they may go well if or that the person with disability was just shopping and perhaps was misunderstood. It tends to happen a lot. Or if the person with a disability has committed some sort of mischief, then they can be taken care of without the least harm, without any harm or the least harm possible to the police as well as to the individual with disability. And so there have been some examples of people with disabilities, according to this article. It says this: examples of high profile cases of police killings in which let me repeat that again. Examples of high profile cases of police killing in which underreported disabilities were involved include the following. Freddie Gray experienced cognitive disabilities due to lead poisoning, died in police custody due to a mysteriously broken neck. Eric Gardner suffered from severe asthma, diabetes, and sleep apnea. Died in a place chokehold. Sandra Bland suffered from severe depression and epilepsy. Died in her jail cell in a death rule as suicide. In all three of these cases, police failed to consider disabilities, and instead, the victims were blamed for their own deaths, while the media failed to mention their disabilities or mentioned them in an inaccurate, stigmatizing context. Okay, so that's where I'm going to stop. Again, as a society, I believe we need to be responsible for the least of these. We need to be responsible for treating others well. And unfortunately, we are not doing a great job as a society who boasts about being people that care, people that are loving, and so forth. We're not. If this is the way that we're treating people with disabilities, people of color, or people from any other minority group, I can't imagine that this is going to stop anytime soon. The fact that there are body cams now and that everything should be recorded and there is practically no chance that you can get away with abuse and violence like this. Ever since the George Floyd incident, I've said that police know it doesn't need to be defunded, but yes, there has to be a lot of training. Every organization, regardless if it's secular or religious, needs an overhaul, needs to reevaluate what their goals are, what they're doing, and get retrained. Because some of the things that you have been taught can be outdated and are often, they often are. And this is why you need every so often to, get some individuals together, see what can change, see what can be made better. In my case, for example, and I've spoken about this on other videos, I am a mentor for medical students, and these medical students appreciate that I deliver these talks to them. Now, I'm not the only one. I'm not sure how many people with disabilities are in the mentor program, and I don't know how many medical students have benefited from this over the span of whatever length of time this program has been available to Arizonans. But definitely, it has helped a bunch of people. So why can't they do something like that if they don't want to do the whole training process? Why can't they pair up a police officer with a person who has a disability and do a 30-minute to 1 hour mentor program where you would do the same thing as I'm doing with the medical students? So the police officer will ask you about your health. Um, if you understand, in this case, it will be specific, like if you understand certain rights. If you don't, they will explain them to you, and you would have a program on which to work with the person who has the disability. And in this case, since a lot of people who have disabilities live with a family member or a caretaker or in an institution somewhere, you might want to, you know, talk to the people who live with the individual so they can be made aware of what's happening. They can participate as well. Make it a family friendly thing if you're able to, but always keep the person that has the disability in mind, because that's what these meetings should be centered, right? Upon the person who has the disability. We do want the we do want the safety of every person, especially those with disabilities. So that's what I can offer. That's the advice that I can give to any police officer that may be listening to me or watching me. This is the advice that I can give to anybody that sees a person with disability. Don't go calling 911 just because you're seeing a person with a disability walking alone. You can approach this person, and I've made videos on how to do such a thing. I'll make more. Just remember, we are human just as you are. We have needs and wants and deserve respect just like you do. And remember this last thing as well. There's going to come a time in your lifetime where you are going to have a disability. Doesn't matter if you like it or not. Doesn't matter if you believe it or not at this point in time. But there will be a time, and if it's not you, it's going to be your children. If it's not your children, it's going to become your grandchildren, your nephews, your nieces, your uncles, your aunts. Somebody within your family or your friends or somebody that you know will become disabled at one point. Somebody that you meet will be disabled. And so how are you going to treat that person? I think it's important that we as a society, and I can't stress this enough, start changing our attitude when it comes to people with disabilities. That's all for today. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give a like, leave a comment, and tell me your thoughts. Also, share the video if you have liked it. Subscribe. Thank you so much for waiting on me. I've been busy with the other channel. So, yep, I will bring an update soon. Thank you, and have a nice day.